In this help video, I'd like to look what the performing rounding to optimize position sizing does in the accounts and risk section. So I'm just going to close this off for a second, and you can see we have a trade set up here. If I right mouse click and place the analysis on, you can see that that gives you a short trade of which the calculation has shown that you need to sell 8 contracts to keep your risk less than 2% of a sample $20,000 account, in other words less than $400. But as you can see, the risk is quite a lot less than $400. It's only $360. So what if you thought this was a good trade and you wanted to make sure the risk is about $400, in other words slightly over, say if you're a more experienced trader and you had great confidence in this trade setup. What you can do then is, if you go to the accounts and risk, if you tick this box, what it does is just increases the percentage risk ever so slightly, so it allows you to take slightly more than the 2% risk. So I'll just tick the perform rounding to optimize position size, and there it is. If I do apply, watch what happens up here. So at the moment it's short 8 contracts for a risk of $360. If I do apply, it then goes to 9 contracts for a risk of $405. So in other words, if you're an experienced user and you like this trade setup, but you want to make sure you maximize your risk, in other words keep your risk at as close to as $400, but you know that it's going to be slightly over $400, but you're happy accepting that, then you can tick this box and take slightly more. In other words, that will increase your profit as well, because obviously here the profit is $855. If I untick that, without it, it would only be taking 8 contracts, and obviously your profit is only $760. So that's what it does. It allows you to increase your percentage risk ever so slightly over the default value that you've got on your charts there. So here it increases it just over 400. But for most users, obviously keeping your initial risk small and under control is absolutely paramount. So we only suggest doing this if you are an experienced user and you know what you're doing and you're happy doing it. So for most users, we'd untick this, apply, and make sure that our risk is less than 2% of our account size, and that sometimes means taking a lot less than $400 risk. So an option for the more experienced users, but something that the vast majority of you do will just leave unticked.